boys and gals, and welcome to Farming Simulator 19. I'm Buddy 1927, and we are on Ricci'S. The map just loaded up. And happy 4th of July, everyone. So, it's raining out here. It's a nice, wet, rainy day. Let's see where our tractors are at. That one's at the end, I think. So let's hop into that one yet. We got all 4 farms set up now and the equipment for it. Okay, that's done. And this is my... I don't know what this one is. Right, stop driver. Field 9 disc. Okay. Hit the wrong button. Okay, so let's get this one. Let's see. I think I got this set up. Okay, limer, plow. Yeah, send that to bay 3 and see if it works. Okay, it's working. So that we'll send that to bay 3. Field 8. Oh yeah, we got the potato harvester. And that is done. So we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll head that to field 9, which is right across the street. We're planting, I think, yeah, we're going to plant potatoes here in field 9 too. We're going to generate course for field 9. And we'll go ahead and go to course and generate that. And we're in the middle of this field. This is field 16. Make sure we got that one going. And today what we are going to do is make sure all our farming equipment's up and running and going. What are you doing here? Okay. I don't know what's going on right now. I'm just gonna plant this stuff. Park. Oh, okay. I see where I am. Oh, that's right. I got 2 of these suckers. So we'll just go ahead and drop that, and that's good for right now. And I guess I'm just gonna have to tap through everything. Let's find out where I'm at. Field 15. Let's go ahead and get that going. Okay, and we're almost done with this one, so drive course. Okay, so it's almost done with field 16, and we are finished with field 13. So let's take this, close that. We'll start this up, and we are going to field 14. And yeah, let's just plant corn on that one. And 15. 13, 14, 15 of corn. And we got family over today. So keep watching, and we'll go ahead and get this. We'll just skin the tractors up, and then we are, once we get everything up and running and the fields are being worked, because we are on day 3. I can't read that. We're on day 3 right now, so I want to get all my tractors up and running. And I have not set up course play for the fields yet. I got some of the fields. I only got fields 1 through 5 set up, and we've already done those. I set up home and the shop, and that's about it right now. So we're doing okay now. So let's just continue on what we're doing. That's the one that just finished. Yeah, we're doing corn here. And this is field 14. And we're going to generate the course. Back out, save. Seed. Okay, everything's set. First waypoint. Drive the course and see what happens. Oh, I did redo the city center where we had the city hall, police, and fire department. I swapped out a bigger fire department. So it's now the training headquarters, and you're not planting. Okay, so B, and drive course. So there we go, we got that planting, so we can jump out of there. So we do get that set up. Field 14, stop. We can clear that, and we are going now to field 15. So this is Return to Ricci'S Hollow. Let me get this commercial out while we're driving. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button and bell. That way you know when the latest videos that I do come along and when I go live on YouTube. And do me a favor, help my videos get seen a little bit more by hitting that like button. Every like I get helps my videos get seen just a little bit more, which helps me grow my channel. We're up to 437, so we're gaining on subscribers, but we need more views and more people to join, to subscribe. And if you want to help out this channel with some money, you can go to Steam Labs, or you can go to my website, buddy1927.live, and there's some merchandise on there, or you can donate money to this channel if you want to. The money will go straight to my YouTube channel. It won't go to me personally, but it will go to my YouTube channel. So you'll get, so I will put it back, all the money from the proceeds will go back to my channel, which will help me get Better equipment. Okay. Is this the plow? Did I skip this field? Alright. Let's bring that up. And this is cultivator. Okay. We'll cultivate it. I don't know where the plow is. Did I get 2 cultivators? 12, 12. Field 15. Okay, well, let's cultivate it. 15 disc. We'll save that. Okay. And we will go at the first waypoint. So, now you can leave comments anytime you want. I read all comments. I try to reply to any. I try to reply to all comments. But there's certain ones I won't, and I won't get into those. But go ahead and yeah, my mind is not here today. I'm a little under the weather again. Where are we here? Okay, we are done. We are on field 22. So we saved that, field 22. And we'll drive this to, we gotta drive to field 23. But I try to respond to all comments. If you are live watching me, you want to send me a chat, just give me a couple minutes. I am one person. I don't have any helpers telling me, hey, you got chat on or something like. Somebody said so and so on chat. So I'm watching 2 screens, and half one of my stream screen. I need 3 screens to do this. I need one for my stream, I need one for the chat, and one for gameplay. But right now I only have 2 screens, so half my screens is the chat section, and half of it is the Streamlabs that I'm using right now, so I can make sure everything's doing good with that. So, and also trying to concentrate on this game, and so I have to keep on looking over to my left when chat comes up. So give me a few minutes to reply to any of your live chats. So it's a nice sunny day here in North Carolina. It's good 4th of July weather. I know here in North Carolina, if you go outside, everyone's supposed to wear a mask, and congregations and stuff like that. It's state law right now until the 17th that if you are outside, if you're going shopping, or just going anywhere out in the public, you are required by North Carolina governor to wear a mask until the 17th, until he decides what is the next phase, if he's going to implement the next phase. And to be honest with you guys, I'm getting tired of this. I really am. I'm getting tired of being cooped up. I don't like wearing masks. I did it for 35 years. I now wear glasses, so I can't wear my glasses when I'm wearing my mask because my glasses steam up. My fiance is stuck in China. She can't come here so we can get married. So what overall with this, I'm just We were supposed to get married back in December, and something came up with her family. She couldn't come. Then, no, she got sick. Then her grandmother died. Then when she was ready to come, the virus broke out here and banned all flights out of China. So she's stuck, even though she's an American citizen, she's actually stuck in China. She can't leave China. So, and plus her parents were supposed to fly over with her and come to this wedding ceremony. But all that's on hold until President Trump decides to lift the bans into the flights coming into the United States. Lift the travel orders. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But hey, I voted for the guy. I still think what he's doing for this country is good, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. Where's field 23? (2021, 22). Oh, 23. I need to make a turn here. So, I support what President Trump is doing. People are going back to work, so that's good for the country. Except for certain states that are not opening, like North Carolina, and it's basically the Democratic states. I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican for a long time. I have voted for a few Democrats in my years, but right now, the way the Democratic Party is, I don't like the messages that they're sending out. But we're not talking politics here, we're talking game. So, I had a question, a comment, that wanted to know if this game is worth buying. So, what I want you all to do, if you agree, if you think that this game is worth buying, say so down below in your comments. So they can read it in your experience of this game and why you play Farm Simulator 19. I play it because first of all, I play it because it's a nice strategy game, keeps you thinking and stuff like that. I also like the graphics on this. It's actually pretty good. You can select varieties of different maps. You got different mods you can pick. You got a bunch of different stuff that you can do with this game, and I enjoy playing it. But sometimes I get easily bored. But since I'm now doing live streams with this, I'm not as bored as I was with the game. I mean, I get bored with the games once I figure it out, and it's this. I've played them a few times, and I get bored easy. I get bored very easy, to be honest with you. I like to keep my mind active and find challenges, and doing a live stream and doing these 3 maps I'm doing now, plus doing mod maps and review. Actually, I'm doing 4 maps. I'm sorry. Do 3 live stream maps and a 4th a series, recording a series that comes out once a week, every Friday. Transforming Mars. So check playlist for that. It's out. I had the new episode come out yesterday. So check it out. Let me see what this is slipping. Oh crap. You're stuck on that and I can't get you down. Let's back you up. And we'll go ahead and turn around. I got my relatives here right now. My sister's cooking. My brother-in-law is cooking dinner. So we're having a 4th of July party. And this our family is only, it's me, my sister, her husband. Well, in my house we got my mother, my sister, her husband, her son, and me. So we got 5 people living in the house. And then my niece, her daughter, her baby, and her husband. So we got 8 people right now in this house, plus the dog and the cat. So we are within state law of gathering. Okay, that's doing good. Yeah, okay, we need to get you driving. But we're celebrating the 4th. And I do like the 4th. When I was young, I remember the 200th anniversary of this country, February, not February, July 4th, 1976. I was 12, and I was in Concord, Massachusetts, at the North Bridge. My grandfather was a reenactor, and he was a Concord Minuteman. He was also a retired general. What the hell? Stop. Was a retired general in the Army. He ended up being a full board colonel, and when he was getting ready to retire, he got promoted to general, and he retired as a general. And President Ford came to Concord to watch the parade at the North Bridge and everything. And after the parade, and before President Ford left, I got to meet him in person, shake his hand. My grandfather knew him from when he was in the Army. So we actually had a private moment with with President Ford, and I enjoyed that. That's why it sticks in my head. So I got to meet President Ford, even though he was the only president that was never elected into office. A little history note there. So I remember that as a child. I've met a few other presidents. I've met President Reagan twice. I've met President Bush Sr. Twice. My uncle had a little restaurant in Kitty Bunkport, Maine, and the president would eat his breakfast there when he was staying in Kitty Bunkport. So it was interesting. We are still waiting for field 20. Yes, we're still waiting for field 20. So we had, I've had an interesting childhood. I've enjoyed growing up, and I've actually have lived up and down the east coast of the United States. I mean, it was funny. My father was a minister, so we moved around a lot. And the early part, we were up in Massachusetts, New York, and then we moved to Maryland. Now, Maryland was a neutral state during the Civil War, but they considered themselves Southerners. So I had a culture change, but why you stopped? Because I don't know why you stopped. First waypoint, drive. Okay, let's just clear this. Let's see. Do I have field? Am I on field 32? Yeah, I'm on field 32. Okay, what? Let's just redo that. Since this is actually the first time we're doing this, we'll just go to field 32. Ah. No, 30. No, it's supposed to be 18. It's supposed to be 18, that's why. Yeah, let's get this set up correctly. Even though it says 30 on the implement's only 18 meters. I don't know. And then when I do, it always does it on the first field that a line does, setting it up. So let's get this set up correctly. But when I was in school, up north, they taught nothing but the Revolutionary War. When I got to a southern state, or a southern border state, they talked nothing but the they talked very little on the American Revolution, and they talked heavily on the Civil War. And what I found interesting is, where I lived in Frederick, Maryland. And in Frederick, Maryland is where Francis Scott Key is buried. Why is it not doing this? Am I out of helpers? First waypoint. Okay. Let's save this field 32. Line. Save. Okay. And drive course. Let me see what it says when it stops. Walk to. Oh, needs to be refilled. So let's hit F11. Evidently I did not fill. So let's stop. Hit F11. Fill line. No wonder it wasn't working. Next time read the warning, buddy. Okay. So but when we get down south, they talk nothing but the Revolutionary War. So I learned from looking at history. I studied both the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, and my father with Vietnam War, my grandfather who was in World War II, listening to his stories. He started off as a private just before the war started, World War II started. And at the end of World War II, he was a major. He received civil field promotion, and he also received Congressional Medal of Honor. And he made the military a career, and he was forced to retire when he reached the retirement age. So let's see what this is slipping, and that's caught on something. So let's fix that. Let's just fold that up. So I had the stories, and my grandfather served in both theaters, both the European and the Pacific. So basically, after they won, when Japan, no, I'm sorry, when the Germans surrendered, he was shipped over to Japan and fought over there too. So I got to hear, and that's where he got won his Congressional Medal of Honor. He took out a Japanese pill single-handedly after his unit was pinned down and several men were killed. He actually took out the pillbox that was pinning his unit down, and risked his own life and took out the pillbox. He was wounded. He also got a Purple Heart for it, but he got the Congressional Medal of Honor for it, and I thought it was nice. But I enjoyed listening to the history. I grew up looking at history and seeing what history was about. And one thing, I forget who said it, but my grandfather instilled it, my father instilled it. Look at history, because people who do not look at the history of themselves or of the world are doomed to repeat their history. Now, my father told me that was to let me know that when you make a mistake, live up to the mistake. And sometimes things, if you keep working, keep making the same mistake, learn from those mistakes. And when you look at the history of this country, there was a lot of mistakes done in this country. A lot of mistakes that this country had, that the people in charge did not look back at the history of themselves, of the country itself, and kept on doing the same mistakes that history showed us was wrong. But history is a good lesson, learning stuff. Now, my heritage, I'm English, Scottish, Irish, German, and Native American. And on my mother's side, my grandfather, who was in the military, my grandfather told me the history. His great-great-grandfather came to this country from Ireland as a slave. And he was a slave. There were Irish people that were slaves. There was Native Americans that were slaves. There were Chinese people that were slaves. It wasn't just black people were slaves. There was all kinds of slaves. All races of slaves. And while he was a slave, he met his great grandmother, who was also a slave, and she was Cherokee Indian. She was a medicine woman for her tribe, and she was captured and turned into a slave, and she was the medical person. In my grandfather's terms, she was the doctor of all the slaves, took care of their needs and stuff like that, because she was a medicine woman. So they met. And then when Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, they got married. They got married. Both my father's great grandfather became a United States citizen, and so did so did his wife become a American citizen. And that's how, on my mother's side, how the family came about. And my grandfather, he was military, so the only color he saw growing up was green. Now, on my father's side, my father was a Marine. He met my mother while he was in the Marine Corps. Field 16, we're down to field 16. Save. So we go to field 17. And his father and I hate to say this, his father was, if you know who Archie Bunker is, he was a deacon in his church. He was Baptist. He was a deacon in his church. And he was Archie Bunker. And he was night and day. My grandfather was night and day from my other grandfather. I learned more from my other grandfather than I did from my father's father. Now, my father, thank God, I mean, he was a bigot. My grandfather was a bigot, not my father. My grandfather was a bigot. Yes, he was a racist, but my father wasn't. My father left the house when he turned 18 and joined the Marine Corps, just to get away from his father. My father joined the Marine Corps and served. He served around the world. He was in Laos back when then Vice President Nixon wrote in Stars and Stripes we have no troops in Laos. And he read that in Stars and Stripes. He turned to his buddy, said, I guess this platoon's not here. There was a whole platoon of Marines in Laos. When Vice President Nixon came up and said there was no troops in Laos. So he was there. He helped train some of the Vietnamese. He was in Vietnam. He was in Laos and fighting for the country, fighting for his country. But got out of the military before Vietnam. Before the Vietnam War started. But my father taught me stuff like that, and he was when he met my mother. He was in the Marine Corps. He was stationed at Camp Lejeune. And he would drive all the way up to, on a 3-day pass, would drive all the way up to either Massachusetts or Maine. My mother was living in Maine. My grandfather was stationed, I forget where he was stationed when they met. He was still in the Army. But the family house was in Concord. That's where my grandfather was born. And all that, and that's where my mom was. All the kids were. When my grandfather was in the war, he never, moved the house. His wife would stay at the house while he went off during deployments and stuff like that. Because my grandfather also fought in the Korean conflict. But there was a lot of things that. But my father was in the Marine Corps, met my mother. He was about ready to re-enlist, and he proposed to my mother. My mother said she would not marry a military man, and asked him to not re-enlist. My father loved her, and oh no, I'm sorry, he wasn't at Lejeune. He was at Camp Paradise. He was at Paris Island. He was a DI at the time. He just became a DI. And when his re-enlistment came up, my mother asked him not, because she did not want to marry a military person, because her father was, and my grandfather, her father would be gone for months at a time. And she didn't want the kids being raised without a father, and also without. They moved around a little bit when they were younger, but they moved around when they were younger. Oh yeah, we need to save this as field 23. Line. But she did not want to be married to the military. She did not want to move around. She wanted to stay in one place and raise a family. So my father got out of the military, married my mom, and they moved to New Jersey, where he started working for. He first started working for Ford Motor Company, and he was going to school. I came along 9 months and 4 days after they got married, so I was a honeymoon baby. So he worked and went to school at the time. This new thing called computers, he started went to school for, and when he graduated school and graduated college, he started working for RCA Computers. Yes, RCA, the ones that make TV back in the 60s, made computers back then. And things were interesting for him. Where are we? There we are. Field 24. Oh, back. Yeah, I did clear it. I hit field 24. There we go. Generate. Back. '24 line. And my father started working for RCA Computers, and back then you didn't have a computers were big. I mean, huge. They were bigger than some houses we had nowadays. And my father had to write down on paper all the codes. DOS. He wrote DOS. I mean, my father taught me DOS when I was growing up. Didn't have Windows, and everything was a lot different back then. So everything was a lot different back then. I don't need that. Nah. And back in the late 60s, my father parents were going to church, and my father would visit in the church. He became a deacon in the church that they were at, and he ooh, okay, he was still planting potatoes. Did I skip over something? Oh no, there we go. Oh no. Okay, now get off. Hop into this. We'll go ahead and start cutting down some trees here, so we can get the lumber mill up and the lumber factory up and going. And while he was visiting prisoners, teaching the gospel to prisoners, he decided to become a minister. My sister was born in 1968, and still worked for RCA Computers full time, and he started going to college part time to become a minister. And he decided that he wanted to go full-time to college and work part-time. And it's back a couple years later. He was in this is 70s. My mother was a nurse, and and he decided he wanted to go to college full time, and he wanted to go to a Baptist college. And he decided that the Baptist college he was going to go to was Gordon College, which was, and my mother wanted to be closer to her family because her family was in Concord, and she wanted to be closer to her family, which I understand. Why are you not moving? I don't know why this thing ain't moving. There we go. Now we got it. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cut. 7, 8. There we go. That's the length I want. And so they packed everything up, and we moved to a town called Beverly. And my father went to school full time. Went to school full time, and I don't know what's wrong today. I don't know why this is. Turn the mouse off and on. Close this. Was it that was causing? I guess it was. And one day we were running late for church. My father had to go to church, and there was a church right down the street from where we lived, and my father decided to pull in there. It was called the Church of the Nazarene, because we would have been late for church if we went to the Baptist church that he was attending, because it was in another town. So he stopped in there. He met the pastor, and met the pastor, went to church. He liked the way the pastor was preaching and all that. And they talked to the pastor for a little bit. He told him that he was studying to be a pastor at Gordon College. Oh yeah, he was going through theologian studies at Gordon College, and they became friends, and we started going to the Church of the Nazarene. And an opening came up. I did not turn this far enough. An opening came up, and at the church, for an associate pastor. This is about a year and a half later, and the pastor offered the job to my father to become his associate, and he took the job. Ministers do not make a lot of money, but he took the job. So he was going to school full time. He was working as an associate pastor full time. When he was working part time and going to school full time, before he took the pastor's job, and my mother was working as a nurse. He actually took a pay cut when he took the job as associate pastor from his part-time job. So, but he figured that's the way the Lord wanted him to go and be, and it was by by sheer coincidence that we went to that church. Remember, he was a lifelong Baptist, and all he knew was a Baptist life, a Baptist church, and he started going to that. And my father became a reverend. Finally got his first church, which was in Reading, Massachusetts, which was still close to where my mother wanted to be. And they started, it was a very small church. I mean, the congregation was about 20. It was a very small church when he started that church. So we moved, and the church had a parsonage, and oops, hit the wrong button. And my mother, we lived close enough to where the hospital that she was working in, she was still close to the hospital where we were working in, and so he took over this church. We didn't have to pay. So things evolved, and for a couple of years he took that church from 20 people, a congregation of 20 people, to a congregation of 120. So he gained 120. He gained 100 people in 2 years in that church, where no other pastor could do it. They were actually thinking about closing that church, and they basically told my father, if you can't. I mean, the church itself, the churches are supposed to support themselves, and the main church was supporting that church, and they did not want. They couldn't afford it no more, and my father was given the task to raise the congregation, or end up doing it. So, and that's what his district manager. I'm supposed to be going down, buddy. His district manager told him to do, and he got the congregation up to what I said, 120, and another district manager from a different district. There was a district managers meeting, and the main church was based in Massachusetts, where we were at, and all the district managers had to come. And as a matter of fact, the church has its own college, which is called Eastern Nazarene College, which is right next to the main church. And the first college, Nazarene College, that was started there. And another district manager heard about him. And we can close that. When the other district manager was telling him about his district and his pastors and stuff like that, and that district manager had an opening. And he was in the upstate New York area. District manager of Syracuse district is what he was. So he had an opening in Fulton, New York. Double the size of the congregation size that my father currently had, and it was actually a big opportunity for him to take. And they prayed about it, and my mother really didn't want to go because she was close to her family, and my father was not close to his family. Mainly close to his father. I mean, we would go down and visit them on holidays when my father was able to visit them on holidays. Being a pastor, there's certain holidays you can't go, or you gotta plan ahead. And being low man on the totem pole, or finding another pastor that will fill in for you on a holiday is kind of hard. But we would go down once a summer to New Jersey, where my other grandfather lived, and all that. But we moved to Fulton, New York, which is 32 miles north of Syracuse, and 12 miles off of Lake Ontario. There was a river called the Oswego River that ran right through the middle of the town. And that town was a factory town. Miller Brewing Company had a plant there. Nestle's chocolate factory had a plant there, and Clorox had a plant there, and there was a bunch of factories in that town. And actually, I loved it when we first moved there. My father and I drove ahead with the moving van. My mother stayed. We moved in the end of the year we moved in late December 1976, right in the middle when school was out, and was out until New Year's. And I rode up with my dad, and my mother and my sister stayed behind. We went ahead with the moving van. We got there at around 1 o'clock in the morning, and the church put us up in a hotel for a couple nights until we got everything unpacked. So we went to the hotel, and when we pulled into town, there was a bank sign. You know how the bank signs show you the current temperature, and I looked at there. That current temperature was 13 below zero Fahrenheit. It was cold. So, and snowing, and when we pulled up from the street, we could not see the hotel. Actually, it was a motel, not a hotel. We could not see the motel until we pulled into the parking lot because the snowbanks were so high. And the clerk who checked us in, I asked him a question. How much do you get a lot of snow around here? And he looked at it and said, well, this year it's been a little light, and we've only had 4 feet so far this year. We usually have about 6 feet right now. We average about 666 inches a year. I'm like, that's a lot of snow. And he just turned around and said, I have a son your age, and I'm going to tell you right now, they don't cancel school for snow. And back then, you walked to school. There were some buses, but most of the schools around there, you walked to school. We lived in the city of Fulton, so the schools in Fulton never closed, and it wasn't a county. We were part of Fulton County, New York, but county did not run the schools. County had their own schools, and the city had their own school. So the only time there was only one. I remember we lived there for about 2 years, and the only time I remember the school being closed was during an ice storm. And the only reason why they closed the schools was because the ice was so heavy and so thick, they were afraid that the power lines were being taken down by tree limbs and also by the ice itself. We received 4 inches of ice during that storm. That's a lot of ice. And that's the only time I remember it ever being schools ever being closed. And when I was 12, I started working on a farm, and so the guy had what we call a muck farm. And the reason why we had muck farms is because we live 12 miles off of Lake Ontario. So we got the lake effect snows during the winter time, and during the summertime it rained about 70% of the time. So you had nothing but muck. When you plowed the earth, the earth turned into muck. Combination of mud and all the other crappy stuff. So I started working on a muck farm during the winter time. Then we moved to Frederick, Maryland. Probably got a chance at a bigger church. And he wanted to be at a church where, because I was in junior high school, getting ready to go to my sister was in elementary school, and they wanted a bigger church. So, and my mother wanted to be a place, because my father would always get church offers and they turn it down and stuff like that. But my father had a heart attack, and because of all the shoveling that he was doing, I did a lot of shoveling, but we had snow blowers, and my father wouldn't let me operate the snow blower. So let's see what this. Okay, this is field 21, so we need to go to field 22. It's saved. Stop. Erase that, go to field 22. And go to field 22. Oh, we need to go that way. We need to go straight. So the doctor told him that he needed to go to a warmer climate because He not supposed to be operating any heavy equipment or anything like that. So we moved to Maryland, Frederick, Maryland. Took a church over there, bigger church, and they decided that my father and my mother decided that they were going to put down roots and not going to move anywhere for any openings or any positions. And they were going to stay there until at least we were out of school and on to college or wherever we decided to go. So we stayed there. My sister, I finished high school. I started. I was a volunteer. I joined the local fire department. I joined the local fire department when I was 16 as a junior firefighter, and I started to got my basic firefighting, which is which would be called fire level 1 and 2, through University of Maryland when I was 17. And I took my EMT course through University of Maryland Fire Rescue Institute and got my EMT before I was 18, but I couldn't operate as an EMT when I was it was 6 months before my 18th birthday, so for 6 months I couldn't practice as an EMT. So, and I was still a junior firefighter. I turned 18 in October. I was out of high school. I was working as a landscaper, and I loved that job. I was working 2 jobs. When I was 16, I was volunteering as a firefighter, going to school, going to University of Maryland Fire Rescue Institute, and also working a part-time job at FW Woolworth as a stock boy. And things, I kept busy. I started working full-time as when I turned 18, I started working full-time as a land surveyor. Started off as a rod and chain man. My best friend's cousin was a party chief. He was in charge of a crew, and we lived in Frederick, Maryland. He lived in Frederick, Maryland, and they were looking for a rod and chain man. And he asked me if I was interested in it. I said, sure. I said, but what kind of schooling do I have to go through? Well, we'll do on-the-job training, and we'll set you up in school and stuff as the time goes by. He said they'll pay for your school, college and stuff like that, but first you got to put in 2 years as a rod and chain man before you can go to school. And the company was based out of Manassas, Virginia, which is in the DC area. And we would drive from Frederick. He had a company car, and he would drive to Frederick. He would pick me up at 5:30 in the morning, and we would go to work. Where are we? We're down here. And we'll enter that vehicle again. And it was fun. We had jobs. Why are you doing this? We had jobs in and around DC area. And we did mainly construction surveying. And I started asking, I was questioning everything. On our crew we had 2 rod and chain men, and instrument man, and the party chief. So we had 4 people on our crew. And I was asking questions and stuff like that, learning the trade. Basically, first I had to learn my job, and why, and then I started asking, why am I doing this, and asking questions about this, that, and the other thing. And I was very inquisitive. And about a year after I was working there, our office moved to, they opened a second office in Leesburg, Virginia, so they moved our crew. Well, they moved me and my crew chief to the Leesburg, Virginia, because we were living in Frederick, and it was a lot shorter for us. And he was taking a company truck home every day. He was taking his field truck home every day, commute back and forth. So we moved down to Leesburg, and they hired. They hired a new rod and chain. Promoted a new rod and when they opened the office up, they promoted. I keep on forgetting. I gotta close that. They promoted our rod and chain man to instrument man, and they were only going to operate because we were doing property. What our office was doing was setting up developments for houses and stuff like that. We weren't working on high rises and stuff like that. And when you're 20 stories high, looking down, trying to get a level of a floor as a rod and chain man, you're standing there with a rod, and you are afraid of heights. And you have to walk on a beam. So I kind of enjoyed that. And we started off, we were the only crew out of that office, except for one of the, they had a couple engineers that worked out of the office, and the company was called BC Consultants, and I forget their last names. So one started with a B, and the other one started with a C. So it's BC Consultant, Engineering, Design, the whole 9 yards. This is field 24, so we can stop that. It's saved. We can go ahead and go to field 25 now. So we need to turn this way. Yep. And we moved so they hired another rod and chain man. They actually hired my buddy's cousin to be, no, cancel, stop. Yeah. Field 25, right? Field 25, yeah, there we go. Correct? Okay. And he started off as a rod and chain man, and I was a senior rod and chain man then. Which means my crew chief can now start teaching me how to start working the instruments. The electronic equipment. Oh, field 25 line save. Okay, why did you stop? Okay, drive course. So I started learning the instrument and started to become what they call an instrument man. And I kind of enjoyed it, to be honest with you. There we go. And one day, the owner that was working at the office, and they started teaching me how to run the instruments and stuff like that. And I had to buy a scientific calculator, and my boss was teaching me how to calculate, read blueprints, and how to calculate angles and all this stuff, and how to do certain things. So I think we got enough. Now let's go. Okay, we can close this. We can go this way. I don't know what's wrong with my mouse. It does this every once in a while. This with the Scorpion, I don't know why. And it'll kick in. But I'll go ahead and and I was learning and asking questions, and then one day they had a topo job that needed to be done right away. But they also had a couple of other jobs that they needed done. So the boss took me off my crew, and my crew chief was going to be running a man short that day. And my boss, who was an engineer, but he started off as a rod and chain man and worked his way up and became a surveyor, and then he became an engineer. So he took me on this topo job. I never did topo. We never did topo job before. And I was asking him questions left and right. And he's like, why are you asking all these questions? I said, well, I'm learning the instruments, and I never worked with that instrument, never seen that instrument before, and it was an old, the instrument he was using was 100 years old. It used to be his grandfather's, then became his grandfather's, then became his father's. It was handed down in his family. And I said, I've never seen this instrument before, and he explained what it does, and we are just taking levels of the ground so they know where heights are and what kind of drawing out when the engineer plans for roads and drainage and stuff like that. I said, oh, okay. And they needed this topo job so the engineer of our company could figure out how to do what we were setting up for this new development that we got in, and they put a rush order on it. So I spent the week there. I spent a week with him there, and he's like, you learn pretty fast. And he taught me a few things, and I picked it up quickly. He said, you know what you're doing. I said, well, yeah. I mean, my crew chief taught me a lot. Has taught me a lot. Both on the job and off the job. He said, why? I said, well, we're friends, and we live in the same town. I went to his. I was a groomsman for his wedding. I helped him and his wife move into their first house, and I was there when he got the news that his wife was pregnant. So he's kind of taking me under his wing. He said, oh, that's good. And I was still working part-time at Woolworth, FW Woolworth. At that time I was a salesperson, but I would only work Friday nights and Saturday. Stores were closed on Sundays back then, at least in Maryland, because of what they call the blue laws. So the only day off I really had for myself was Sundays. And I liked my job. I learned it. So the second week, we were working on the topo job. He brought another rod and chainman. And he's like, I'm going to teach you how to topo. I'm going to teach you how to do the instruments, how to plot it out on the plot, and everything. And he's like, okay. So the second week, because it was a huge, it was a couple acres. Okay, let's take care of this first. This was a simple one, so we just need to. I did press start. Or did I? There we go. And that needs to be up there. We can go ahead and start this one now. And we are planting corn. That's right. Corn. I said corn. Then we'll switch it up. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. I'm doing plowing and cultivating at the same time, so we'll wait. It wasn't done plowing. I thought it was plowing 16. I was plowing 15. So we'll just park that there for right now. Okay, this is field 17. So stop the driver. We got that saved, so we need to go to 18. Which is this field here, right? Yes, this is field 18. So he taught me how to topo. He stood over me. He explained what to do and all this. And He taught me how to topo, and I picked it up quicker than he thought I would. He said it took me 3 months this to learn how to topo, and you've learned it in 1 week. I said, well, I have a 150 IQ, and you showed me what to do, and I learned fast. And he said, okay, what I'm going to do, he said, we got another topo job next week. I'm going to give you this rod and chain man. I'm going to give you a vehicle, and you will become my topo guy for this office. You will do nothing but topo from now on. I'm like, okay. And he said, I'll give you a vehicle. You have your own vehicle, and we'll do this topo. I said, well, I want to learn the other instruments and stuff like that. Well, when we don't have a topo job, you'll be working with your crew chief. But I'm promoting you to crew chief of topo. So when we have a topo job, that's your job. You're going to be doing it. And I do have one next week. And I'm going to give you a vehicle to take back and forth. That's like I do for your rod and chain man. But when we don't have a rod and chain man, you're going to leave that vehicle here, and you go commute back and forth with with him. And I said, okay, cool. So I did that, and I loved it. I was stupid though. I did that job. I loved it, and I learned to become instrument man. I got promoted to instrument man my 3rd year working for the company, and that was unheard of, because usually you have to be a rod and chain man for 5 years before you are promoted in the company. Yet I was promoted to topo chief. I didn't wait my 5 years as a rod and chain man, and I learned how to run all the instruments that the company has, and in 3 years I was a full-fledged instrument man and a topo chief is what they gave me, was my title. And our office started getting more and more jobs, so we started having more and more topo jobs, and I was loving it. And I came to work at Woolworth Friday night, and I was making a lot of money. I was making decent money, and if it rained, we couldn't go out because equipment can't be exposed to weather because they were electronic, and they couldn't make them waterproof back then, so we didn't go out when it was raining. And we would do stuff like paperwork and stuff like that, and it was interesting. Or if it snowed, if we showed up to work, we got paid. Or if we showed up to work and they had no work for us to do in the office, we were sent home, and we got paid for the day. As long as you showed up to work, you got paid. So and in Maryland and Virginia, snow is a 4-letter word, and people do not know how to drive in it. Okay, this is field 15, so we need to go to field 16. So let's go to field 16. And this is the big field. Or am I going the wrong way? Where am I going? I'm going to field 16. Where's field 16 from where I was at? 15. Oh, 16's back up. I went the wrong way. so field 16. So one day I came to work at Woolworth, and Woolworth, my manager was there, and the district manager was there. And I could sell ice to an Eskimo. It's basically what my boss was telling him, and they had an opening for a assistant manager. He said, "What kind of a degree do you have?" Oh, I was also going to school at night, and I also became a paramedic during that time. I was a volunteer paramedic. I had a lot of things in works. And I was a volunteer firefighter. I was a volunteer paramedic. I told him that, and I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Medical training. I'm right now in the process of training to become a surveyor. I'm not going to school yet, but work for a engineering consulting company, and I do construction surveying right now, and I'm in charge of my own crew as a topo chief." And he was like, "Okay." And I also was, he said, "Do you know this young lady?" And it was my girlfriend at the time. I said, "Yes, she's my girlfriend." He said, "Do you know who her father is?" I said, "Yeah, he's the vice president of Woolworth." And he's like, "Yeah, well, she spoke very highly of you." And I'm like, "What? To her father?" And her father wants you to be considered for the assistant manager's position at Woolworth. And I'm like, "Well, I don't meet the qualifications." He's like, "Yeah, you don't. But your sales are good. You know how to planogram. You know how to do a lot of things that somebody fresh out of school does not know." So and the assistant manager position is you have to go through FW Woolworth's management training course. Field 32. What is going on here? Am I stuck? Got some lag or something? I got some lag. There we go. Let's try this again. There we go. Now we can field 32, so we go to field 33. And we can start to plow on 32, which I could have started earlier. I forgot how big this field is. Why didn't you tell me, guys? The guys that are watching should have told me. Start plowing field 32. But they offered me a job as assistant manager, and I had to go through the management training program, which actually was in itself, you end up with a business degree of sorts. At that time, the FW Woolworth management training program was the top training program in the country for retail managers. So I said, "Well, can I think about it and let you know next week?" And I said, "I mean, I got a good career where I'm at right now." He said, "Well," he told me what the assistant managers make, and you're hourly, you're not salary. And depending on what store you manage, is based on, you become salaried once you become a store manager. You're hourly and you work 50 hours a week. And he told me the hourly rate. And you got time and a half for overtime. If you worked a holiday, if the store was open on a holiday, you got double time for a holiday. And he said, you can make good money as an assistant manager. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. So I thought about it for about a week, talked to my girlfriend about it, and she's like, I did not tell my dad to hire you. We got in a little bit of an argument about it. And she was going to Hood College, which was in Frederick, Maryland. That's how I knew her. And she was getting her 4-year degree. It was an all-girl school that she was going to. Very private school. It was nothing but women there. And she worked part-time at Woolworth, and that's how we started dating. And I did not know who her father was at the time. At the time when we were dating, he was vice president. Save Field 32 plow. And she was a little younger than me. She was about 2 years younger than me when she was 2 years younger than me. So she was, when we met, she was when we started dating, she started at the college, because we were dating for a while. And things were going pretty good with me. Let's see. Tractor 7 first. Okay, so we'll stop there. Field 25, so we need to go field 26. So I thought about it, and next Friday when I went to work, the district manager was there again. He said, so have you made a decision? I said, yeah, I've made a decision. I said, I'll take the job, but I have to give 2 weeks notice to my other job and finish the job. I have to finish a job there that will take about 2 weeks, and that way I'll work out my 2 weeks notice, because I was doing a topo job, and it was the first week, and when you do topo, you want the same person doing the topo. You don't want a different person pick up where somebody else left off. You want the same person, so you get the same hand on the plot and all that, and they understand why you did that and what you did and all that. So I said, I gotta finish that job. I mean, they promoted me. They hired me when I was 18. Didn't have a job. I had a job, but I was just working part-time. It was my first full-time job. And this is field 26. So we decided to, and they're like, oh, that's nice. That shows that you show loyaltism, and you also honor your agreements. That's nice. That's the type of person that we're looking for. So I started the management training program. 2 weeks later, after I finished my job down there, and I stopped working. I didn't work that weekend because my first day on the job was that Monday, and I went from part-time to full-time, so I couldn't work there part-time anymore, and I got assigned to a store. But my first 2 weeks I had to be at the district office filling out paperwork and going over all the videotapes and a whole bunch of stuff. So, tractor 8, 12, that's the plow 22, so we stop, we do that, we go to field 20, go to field 23. So I went ahead, still volunteered. I was averaging about 56 hours a week, almost 60 when I finally got to the store. And they rotate you from store to store, so you weren't in one store for a while. And I started working in different sized stores, working for different managers, and they all had what they call manager trainers, so they all had to go through a course to become a manager trainer. Manager trainee. I was a manager trainee, so they were manager trainers, and it was interesting. The program was for two years, and I finished the program in a year and a half, because there's this book that you gotta go through your training and all that, and I just finished the whole program in a year and a half. I did not have a business degree, because to become an assistant manager you had to have a 2-year business degree, and after you go through that program, you end up with a 4-year business degree is what you end up with. And I ended up with a 4-year business degree out of, I forget what college. Some college in New York. And I did that for it. And then once I passed the course, I finished, I was the first person in the history of the company. I was the first person in the history of the company to finish the program in a year and a half. And the 2-year was an average. Most people finished it in 2.5 years or 3 years, because it's based on what you do. It's also based, and I missed my turn. Why didn't you guys tell me I missed my turn? Nope, I'm not going to fall down the cliff. Now turn. So, finished the degree. Or did I? No, I did. No, I didn't. No, I did not miss my turn. See what happens when I'm thinking. So I went ahead, finished the program. First one in, at that time the company was 150 years old. I finished my degree. I got a degree. I finished my degree, and I was still an assistant manager. And then my old store that I worked at, I had new district man. He wasn't new by then, but the district manager I was working for then, because my other district manager got promoted, and my girlfriend's father got promoted to president of the company when the other one retired. So I was dating the president's daughter of the company I was working for. So a lot of things happened, and we did a lot of things. I did a lot of things, but after the week after I finished the program, my district manager called me up. He said, "You live in Frederick, right?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why?" Going to field 23. Okay. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, I guess I have to fire well, actually, your store manager is taking early retirement. Actually, I'm going to give him the option to take early retirement." And I'm like, "You can't fire him. I've worked for him since I was 16. And he said, "Well, I need a temporary manager at that store. So I want you to meet me at the store at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I want you to take over the store as assistant manager, as temporary manager." So I said, "I really don't want to do that." He said, "Well, you have no choice. You're going to do that." I said, "Well, okay. Well, most of the people work there I've worked with, and they all know me as Buddy. They don't know me as Mr. Walter." "Well, you got to show them that you're Mr. Walter, not Buddy." So I said, "Okay." And it's only temporary. It's going to be about 2 months. And then give me 2 months to find a new manager and get him in, get him settled in, then we'll talk. Well, that 2 months, he got transferred to he took a bigger district. The district manager did. And by the time I worked there 6 months, and it was hard for everybody to know me as, these were my friends. Hell, I was dating one of the employees, which is you're not supposed to be doing. But it was the president's daughter, so they looked the other way. And she only worked there part-time. She wasn't full-time. The only time she worked full-time there is when she was out of school. So okay, this is field 20, so you need to go to 21. That's saved. So no, stop. There we go. I don't know what that does. Okay. Field 20, we need to go 21. Yeah, that way, buddy. Hell, well, let's go over the tracks. We'll cheat and take a shortcut. Oh, wait a minute. What field did I just finish? Okay, this is the disc. Yeah, we're going to field 21. This isn't the plow, this is the disc. Oh yeah, there's farm 2, 3. Generate course, field 21. Generate. Back, hit save. Field 21. Disc. And that really doesn't matter. We're saved. first waypoint, and let's see. Ah, that's what that eye does. Okay. There we go. So, I'm going to end the story there, because it's time for my animals to be fed. They're looking at me, licking their chops, because everybody else has been eating and they haven't gotten a chance to eat yet. So, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button and bell. That way you know when the latest videos that I do come along and when I go live on YouTube. And do me a favor, hit that like button. Every like I get gets my videos seen a little bit more. And I really do appreciate that. And as always, have fun playing your games.